Hi, I'm Chris Schleter, master gardener, food blogger, and writer. Gardening, cooking, healthy and tasty food is my passion. Welcome to my country kitchen, where we'll cook fast, fresh, with the best ingredients you can find. Come join me now. Now we're going to make some Mexican street salad. It's a salad that is basically mostly corn and then a bunch of other vegetables thrown in there. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the corn again, I'm going to try toast it. And that's just to get a little bit of brown on it. Fresh corn works the best. And we're just going to let that toast a little bit with a little bit of salt and a little bit of some pepper. And now I'm going to mix some other ingredients that will be in a salad. We're going to use a half of a jalapeno. And you want to chop this up as fine as you possibly can. Okay, and I'm going to put that into a larger bowl here. And now I'm going to add a can of black beans. They are just black beans. These are organic, and make sure you rinse off black beans because they have kind of like a little bit of a liquid on there that you really want to get rid of. So make sure that they're nice and like this, so they're not all stuck together. So I'll add those in there. And then I'm going to add in some avocado. And that's how you just take the pit off of an avocado. And I'm going to slice it into pieces, slices, chunks, either way works great. And if you don't want your avocado to turn while you are making your dish, just squeeze a little bit of lime juice on it. And even though avocado is brown, if you leave it sit in the refrigerator, it's still good to eat. It's more of the way it looks is that people don't like the way to eat it when it's brown, but it works just fine for eating. And what causes that is the oxygen. And you can put anywhere from 1 to 4 avocados in here. And let's check our corn. See how that's coming along? It's coming along good. It's getting nice and toasty and browned a little bit there. And avocado, how you can tell it's ripe is this part right here, this little where the stem comes, that should be brown. If it's not a dark brown or a medium brown, it's not ripe. And they should be a little bit soft. You should be able to put your, almost like a finger indent. You can see that, it kind of stays there. If it's squishy, it's overdone. If it's hard, it's not ripe enough. And as you can see, I'm scoring it first this way, then I come back and score it the other way. Make it about 1/4 inch intervals. And that's how you slice it, quickly and easily. If you don't have an avocado scooper, you can just use a spoon. It works just as well. And now I have a little bit of lime juice. I'm just going to squeeze on there just to stop a little bit because my recipe also calls for a half a lime, so I want to make sure it doesn't get too tart. And if you taste it and it's a little bit tart for you, just squeeze a little agave nectar on it, and that'll sweeten it up just perfectly. Okay, let's go and check our corn. It's doing good. You can see it's starting to turn a little bit brown now. Okay, now I'm going to add some peppers, and I've got red, yellow, and orange again. And I left them in kind of the big chunks. And you can put anywhere from a half a cup to a cup in here. And now I'm going to add some fresh tomatoes. And I happen to have some Romas. And a tip, when you cut with tomatoes, you should use a serrated knife. You can either use a long blade or a short blade. This is a steak knife, but it's got a serrated edge and it works really good for cutting tomatoes. And you can see how easy it is. It doesn't tear through them like if you have a plain flat knife. it will tear through your tomatoes. And tomatoes should also be stored on the counter. You should not refrigerate tomatoes. And try to use them up within about a week of picking them. If they're not quite ripe, you can just leave them sit on the counter or a nice sunny windowsill, and they will get ripe on there. Okay, now we're gonna check our corn again. Oh, perfect, okay. So now what I need to do is I need to add some garlic, and I'm going to add 3 cloves of garlic, which I have some in here before, so I'm just gonna add the rest of this now. Now that's nice and brown, so we're just gonna let this sit for a while. And I'm gonna finish cutting the tomatoes here. And you can just do a rough chop on these. It doesn't have to be real fine. You can even just do slices of tomatoes too. If you don't have Roma tomatoes, any tomato will do. You can use even an heirloom tomato, those are good. One thing about Romas, they aren't as juicy and runny as your regular canning tomatoes are. Amish paste tomato is actually a good tomato too to use. Just look for different varieties and then see which one you like the best. So now I'll add the fresh tomatoes in there. And that's the basic vegetables I'm going to add. Now I'm going to make a little of a dressing. And in the dressing, I need some mayonnaise. And the mayonnaise is about 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup. It just depends on how much vegetables you have. Hopefully this is going to be enough. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add my lime juice to this now. And it calls for like 1 lime, so I'm just going to juice the whole lime. And make sure when you juice fruits like lemons and limes that they're at room temperature, they will produce a lot more juice that way too. And I have a little bit of zest I'm going to add on here because that'll give it more of the lime flavor. Just make sure you wash your fruit really well. Any skin that you use, wash it really good in a good clean water. I also add a little bit of plain white vinegar to my water when I wash fresh fruits and vegetables to try to get some of the bacteria off of there. It makes the mayonnaise a little bit more runnier, which is exactly what you want. And I'm going to add some Spanish paprika to this. And I'm going to add some cayenne pepper to this. So now I have that mashed up pretty good. And one more thing I'm going to add is some different kinds of cheeses. These are Mexican style cheeses. This is cotija cheese. Cotija cheese is really very crumbly. So you can see here, it almost looks like a feta cheese, but it's really salty too. And if you notice, I really didn't put any salt in this recipe. It's because I'm going to add that salt with this cotija cheese. The Oaxaca cheese is a soft cheese. It's almost like mozzarella. They're both made out of fresh skim milk, but this is more of a real soft cheese. And I'm just going to basically tear that up into pieces in here. And you can use as much as you want. If you can't find the Mexican cheese, there's usually by wherever the ethnic foods are. You could also use a mozzarella or a soft cheddar if you wanted to. This is just more of a authentic type dish. Get you a different chance to use different cheeses. It's always fun to try different cheeses. You can see how it just crumbles. It crumbles really good. So you just get a little bite of that saltiness when you use the cotija cheese. We'll make sure we have enough. Okay, so that's probably about with maybe 1/4 to 1/2 cup, as much as you like. And if you get little chunks like this, just use a fork and break it up and put it in there. Okay, so now I have the dressing, which I'm just going to put right on top of the vegetables here. It's a very thin dressing, as you can kind of see as I'm pouring it out on here, and you don't need much dressing. If you like it with a lot of dressing on, then I suggest you double the recipe for the amount of dressing that there is. And here we're adding our corn. See how nice and golden that got? That's perfect. That's what you call a nice charred corn. And now all we need to do is really just fold this all in together. Just fold it in. And that soft cheese will actually melt a little bit on here, so that will kind of give it more of a creaminess as well. And you can serve this at room temperature. You can serve it well chilled. You can serve it just as soon as you get done. And then it's kind of a warm salad too. And this is even really good just as a dip for chips too, except it's not as creamy, but I like it that way as well. And now I'm going to add just a little bit of cilantro to this. And this is from my garden. It's a great year for cilantro, so we're gonna make sure we use some of this up. And you can just tear this up or you could chop it finely. I just like to chop it if I'm putting in a whole lot of it, but I just kind of want the leaves just to kind of be as an accent in there. Okay, and then I'm going to put this on a lettuce lined plate. You can see it's mixed up really good. So it's kind of it's not really what you call a real creamy corn, but it's more of a salad, a dish that you can just eat with a fork. And you can just do each serving separately this way, or you could do one big bowl. The other thing you could do too is just take the romaine lettuce and chop it in chunks and add it to the salad as well. And then I'm just going to top it with a few more fresh peppers on there and a little sprig of cilantro. And then I'm going to add just a little bit more paprika so you can kind of see the shading on there. And this is ready to eat. It's an easy, quick, very tasty corn salad. Let's start with some cheddar corn fritters. Corn fritters are usually a southern type dish, but they're great to have for any type of a meal. They're kind of like you can use them as an appetizer, or you can use them with a meal like for sausage for breakfast, or you can use them for a dinner time meal. And all you need is some flour. I've got like about 3/4 cup here of an all-purpose flour, and this is going to be in one bowl. And in that, I'm also going to add a teaspoon of some sugar, and this is an organic raw cane sugar. And I'm also going to add some chili powder, and there's different kinds of chili powder. This is a regular chili powder, and this is an ancho chili powder. This has got a little bit different flavor to it. So I'm going to put about half and half of each one in here. So I'm going to fill my teaspoon up with some ancho and some regular chili powder to give it some other different flavors. Okay, so there's our chili powder. And I'm going to add just a pinch of salt to this. Just going to mix this up so the chili powder is well dispersed in there. And now I'm going to make the wet ingredients. And this would be 2 eggs. All you need to do is just crack 2 eggs into a large bowl. And then I'm going to mix these eggs up a little bit to get the yolks and the whites mixed up together. So they're kind of nice and creamy and a little bit white. Now I'm going to add some of that fresh made corn, and I have about 2 cups of corn in here. And you can add a little bit more or less, however your tastes are when you start making them for the first time. You can kind of tell if you like a lot of corn or not. And then I'm also going to add some red pepper. And you can also use roasted red pepper. That works really good too. You buy that in jars, and it's a nice soft pepper, and that works really good. And I'm just using fresh because the garden has peppers in it, and I want to get those used up right now. So I'm chopping up a little fine. And then here's some more. I'm going to add those in there. And then I'm also going to add some cheese. And you can add anywhere from 1/2 cup to a cup of cheese. This is cheddar cheese. I like cheddar in them, but you could add any kind of cheese that you want. So now I'm going to mix this up together so we have kind of it almost looks like it's a casserole type dish, but it's a little bit thicker than that. Now I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of, you can use water. This is 1/2 and 1/2, or cream or milk, whatever. But I'm using 1/2 and 1/2 today to give it more of a richer flavor, a nice creamier flavor. So now that I have that mixed up, now I can add my dry ingredients. And you're just going to stir this up till it's just about mixed up. So not a whole lot, just till it's mixed up. And it should be fairly thick. We don't want it to be real runny. So I'll add a little bit more in here. You should be able to drop this off on a spoon. Like, see how thick this is? It should drop off on a spoon like that, because we're going to fry these in oil. And I have a pan that is preheating with oil right now, and I want to get that up to about 350 degrees. So here is the batter. That's about what the consistency that you're looking for. I will also include a recipe online how to make these with baking powder, and they rise up a little bit bigger, so you can have that option to do as well. And now that I have all the ingredients mixed up, I'm going to add a little bit of melted butter. It's about 2 tablespoons of melted butter. That just gives it more of a tastier flavor. So now it's all mixed up and ready to fry. So now let's try and see if our oil is ready. And the way you can test an oil is ready is if you just take a little bit of water and it starts to bubble like that, that you know it's getting hot and that's about the right temperature you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this spoon and we're going to fry them up just a little by little here. And that, you can make them any size you want, but I'm going to do little ones and then I'll make a bigger one here so you can kind of see how bigger one is. It's like a tablespoon. This is like about 2 tablespoons. And you're just going to let them sit in there and fry until they're golden brown, which is about a couple minutes on each side. And if your batter is too thin, what you can do is you can just add a little bit more flour to this and it'll thicken it up too. But it should be fairly thick. If it's a little bit thinner, like this is a medium thickness, if it's a little bit thinner, then you just kind of leave the batter just in a little spoon in there, just spoon it in and then leave it sit there a little bit longer. And I'm going to let that cook. You don't even want to touch this until it starts to form a crust on the outside. And if they fall apart while you're making them, don't worry. That's fine. You can just use it as a more like a fried corn dish then. So don't worry about that. Don't fret if something does not turn out. You can always make it work for you. So I'm going to let these fry for a little bit, and when that side is golden brown, I'm going to flip them over and fry the other side till it's golden brown. Okay, I just fried up the fritters and I put them on a paper towel to drain so it gets all the excess oil out of there. And to serve them, you can just put them on a little plate or you can have a large plate. This would be like a 1 serving size. And I just sprinkle a little bit of salt. This is pink Himalayan salt on there. And I do just a little bit of chili powder, not much, just a tad. And then I drizzle over some maple syrup. You can use maple syrup with butter. I melted some butter in here as well. And you can eat them just like that as a, kind of like even like a pancake, you'd say. And if you want them just plain, you just put some butter on them. You could also do melted butter. And I'll show you melted butter here. You could also just use melted butter and just put it on like this. And they're really good that way too. So here's a way that you can eat fritters. And if you want to put some accents on them, you can use nasturtiums. These are edible flowers. You can eat these along with the fritters because they have a real peppery taste to them. So if you take a bite with a fritter on here, it'd be pepper and then the flavor of the corn fritter.